I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. With the years, when I came to faith first in 1990, the next day I knew all the answers. It was simple. It's like a 2 years old baby or 5 years, you know everything, right? Just no question, you know everything. When you are 20, you are not so sure. And you have 50-50 questions and answers. When you are 80, for the most part, you got just questions, no answers anymore. And it's called wisdom. And I believe with God, mature believer, with the years, he's got less and less and less answers and more questions. But questions don't really put him down, but the opposite, up. Because he say, wow, God, how great you are. I don't understand even such small thing. And it just, for me, I'm close to this age, so you have just to share with me, my feeling about it. Okay, so let me share a bit about Jewish evangelism in general, what I mean by that. Because the Bible clearly teaches us there are many, many words. There is no one single word without meaning, right? So when you say evangelism, what do you mean by that? Just opening my mouth and saying Jesus is Christ. Try go down the street in Jerusalem, they stop people and tell them Jesus is Christ. Or do you want to be saved? Or do you want to let Jesus into your heart? They would look on you like just, crazy people. Just telling about God or about Jesus doesn't make necessarily what you do evangelism. It makes you sharing what you know about God. But I want to tell you this very, very important. It doesn't really matter how sophisticated apologetically we're going to be. I want to remind you one simple fact. Do you remember a guy named Shaul? Meaning Paul, right? There is no questions. He was trained the best possible way. He knew everything you want just to argue with him from all sorts of perspectives. Was he witnessed by the community of early Christian church? Absolutely. We know about that because otherwise, I can't imagine what does it mean, the great commitment, the great commandment to the church that he did witness to Paul. Did it impress him? Not at all. Did he know all the prophecies we are studying today? Absolutely. His teachers been the best teachers of that time. Did he have a zeal? Ask. Absolutely he's got. But it didn't help at all. He was evangelized probably by those who seen Jesus alive. He was trained in the best possible way. By that time, it didn't open his eyes. It required miracle. And guys, I am absolutely sure that every salvation, if we think that apologetically we can just make our point and people say, wow, Jesus is our Messiah, it's a huge mistake. Without God, without touch of miracle, everything we do doesn't have any sense. I'm absolutely sure about that. For the most part, our apologetic efforts is not so much for them. It's for us. So when we are already crossed the line and we are already with Jesus, we can say, aha. And it makes us much more sure. And when people look on us and they see that we are sure in what we share, that can help them when they see the miracle. That's the dynamic of what I believe evangelism. Now, when I say evangelism, it's the Hebrew. You have to understand that the first church was, hello, Jewish. And they might be surprised, but they spoke Hebrew, or Aramaic, or Hebrew. That's basically the same language, yes? And the Hebrew language, when you say to him good news, you say Bsorah. Repeat it with me, Bsorah. Bet, Shin, Resh. Bsorah. Wonderful. But the thing is, when you say in Hebrew language flesh, you say, surprise, basar. The same word, bet, shin, resh. So bsorah, super duper spiritual stuff. Flesh is not. But they got the same root. Why is that? And I became, but the Bible says, I believe you know, the Word became what? Spirit. Flesh, exactly. People want to see changes in your flesh, in your walking, in your expressing, in your performing things, in your morality, in your righteousness, how you perceive the way down, okay, when you got this good news. They cannot judge. You know, some people say, okay, it's my intimate relationship with God. I'm going to say you have to have intimate relationship with your wife, not with God. With you having a relationship with God, your intimate relationship with God should be on display of your life. Otherwise, you know, you are talking about sectarian relationship or, you know, something, you know, that is not biblical, but it's rather magical. Magical is not necessarily spiritual. For the most part, is anti-spiritual. So whatever you believe in has to be reflected in your life, has to be reflected in your walking. One more lesson in Hebrew language. When you say face, in Hebrew you use word panim. Yeah, Penuel. Remember, yes, panim. When you say, so something external is panim. When you say something internal, surprise, you say pnim. Panim, pnim, that's essentially the same. So the life without hypocrisy means whatever you got in your heart is to be revealed on your face. In our life, it's not considered even to be polite. How are you doing, brother? Perfect. In next minute, you know, the next minute he's dead. But he feels perfect, you know. It's not what the Bible is about. Evangelism has to be expression of what you got inside. If you got inside nothing, nothing is to be expressed. So first of all, and just I believe the point is clear, that evangelism from Jewish perspective, Jewish mind, Jewish culture is something that much more than sharing words. The word and indeed, as I say, that the same word in Hebrew language, davar. Word indeed, God said, and it became. So in our language, just we say something, whatever happens with that, we don't care much. Most important, we say no. Evangelism is to be supported by our life. I'm not saying that's the only way. God can use even donkey, right? But that's the way. I believe that's the most perfect way. The God set example from the very, very, very beginning when just whatever he said became truth. Whatever he said, he proved immediately by the act. So the word of evangelism has to be proved or approved by the act of evangelism. Things come even more sophisticated and complicated when you speak about Jewish evangelism. So what do we mean by Jewish evangelism? There's a Chinese evangelism. There's a Ukrainian evangelism. There's a Texas evangelism, probably. I don't know. All people are different. And there is just a very nice set of books written by Dr. Michael Brown. And he really gives good examples of, you know, and he says just, you know, theological arguments, historical arguments, personal argumentation. That's perfectly very good. Now, you've been today on the presentation of Dr. Erez Sarah from Israeli College of the Bible. One thing that I haven't seen there, that's about structure of Israeli society in general. And you might be surprised, but just 30%, 3-0, of all Israeli population consider themselves to be religious. So many people have beard like me, and 99% of all males circumcised, but it doesn't mean that they believe in any God at all, at all. So 70% or biggest chunk of the Israeli population are sort of, you know, well, we have nothing against God, or, you know, we are not interested in God. And just 30% are religious. So those 70%, when you share gospel, just good news of Surah with them, they are not very different from you folks, from those from Texas. They're very American-minded, you know, they're oriented on success, you know, they're very atheistic. The creation for them sounds really weird, evolution is what is taught. So for them, evangelism is not very much different from evangelism you got here. Of course, you have to take for consideration historical precedent. And for the most part, those people, they have nothing against Jesus. They have nothing for Jesus. And they say, their argument will go like that. Okay, but you know, those Christians, they killed my grandmother, grandfather, or crusades, or they have nothing to do with God. Their objections and their arguments have to do with the historical precedent. And we have to be very, very, very careful. When you go to China and you say them about Jesus, they would not give a counter-argument about, the Holocaust. It's not their point. But in Jewish mind setting, for those who are not, on a religious realm, for them, whatever you say, and just the rules, how you usually go with those people, you try to bring from historical way to personal. And I'm saying usually, okay, we're going to talk about that, but let's talk first of all about you. And people oppose, and it's just absolutely the same for the old sort of evangelism, Jewish or non-Jewish. They don't want to talk about their personal sin. They want just to bring your attention to any issue you really want, but not to talk about themselves. And it's my goal, and it's your goal, including when you speak about Jewish evangelism, yes? To start, to try to bring this man or woman, to the issue of the personal salvation. Now, assuming you are dealing with another Jewish evangelism, with religious perspective. But I would rather call it not Jewish evangelism, but I would call it Judaic evangelism. And that's a completely different issue. Judaic evangelism usually has nothing to do, and no way you do it as do it with the secular Jews, right? You might be surprised, but the 70% of Jewish people know about Jewish tradition the same as you know, with all my respect, okay? If I ask you today, give me a few rules, a few main, the points of the Jewish tradition of the time of Jesus, I'm sure, just maybe few have idea what I'm talking about. But the gospel of that time was pronounced or set in a Judaic context of that time. There were no atheists by that time. So without understanding what was the cultural setting, it's very, very difficult to share, almost impossible to share gospel. Now, dealing with religious people, okay, you have to remember that Paul told, with the Jew, I am Baptist. Oh no. With the Jew, I am those who are under the law, I am like under the law. Who is ready from the Baptist to be under the law? Not just playing, not just pretending. Paul didn't mean that. He was just actor, hypocrite. No. I don't believe in that. So sharing gospel with religious Jews or Judaic evangelism, you have to be humble enough to study a lot, to understand a lot, and to appreciate a lot when it goes about that. And again, I want just to send you to the books of Michael Brown. That's the excellent tool for that. One more thing, just it's important before I give place for Vladi. Keeping tradition. I personally know few Jewish rabbis, but I mean few, not many. I read, yes, about this sensational 25 Jewish rabbis find Messiah, 250 Jewish rabbis find Messiah, who more, No, I know few. And they live in the most religious neighborhood in Jerusalem. When you come to their home, the first thing you see, they look absolutely same as the old religious environment. But they do it not because they want to impress for evangelism purpose. To do something for evangelism purpose only is to lie. Either you are or you are not. You cannot pretend to be somebody who you are not. Sooner or later you will be caught. It's even worse than not to be at all. So the rabbis I know personally, they never even questioned, their relationship with Jewish tradition, and they keep going in the tradition, bringing glory to Yeshua. I might be surprised, but there is no contradiction for the most part in that. There is no tension. It's not dichotomical, as they say, to keep Jewish tradition, to know Jewish tradition, and to share gospel is. And the last thing I really want to say, and that is probably, it's the thing that I'm going to share tonight about my testimony, but what made really difference in my life, okay? Before I came to faith, I read gospel many, many, many times. Didn't impress me at all. Because I haven't seen in my life somebody whose life is really matching to the New Testament. Okay, I can read a lot of books, so what? Big deal. Fairy tales. People say, well, Jesus, of course, smart guy, but what did that have to do with me today? Nothing. Unless I noticed somebody in my life whose life was really equivalent to what he was teaching. Jewish people and Judaism as religion of deeds, okay, desperately looking for reflection of the good news of your faith in your personal life. Desperately. So first thing you want to do when you intend to share gospel with Jewish people, look carefully at your life and present your body as the living sacrifice for the thoughtful ministry. Exactly what Paul says. This is the way. You have to be very patient. Don't wait for immediate results, okay? But fruit might take a long, long time. But the tremendous blessing God is allowing in your life because of such testimony is just very, very, very difficult to overestimate. That's the way I feel. Okay, Vladi. Now Vladi is going to share, and then you have time for questions.
Thank you, Michael. I will start from what Michael finished with. Your life, that's very important. By the way, my assumption is that the reason for you to be here in this room, actually there are three reasons. First reason, you know Jewish people, you would like to be a good testimony to. Second, you want to know Jewish people to share the gospel with. Third, you're just curious. Maybe there are some other reasons, but it's probably minor reasons. Now, let me contextualize for Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex what Michael just said, and I fully in agreement with him, and I just can sign each word that Michael just said. So without repeating that immediately, I want to come to the context or you live in, because my ministry base is in Berlin, Germany, but still I'm spending much time here in Dallas, Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Anyway, Dallas and Fort Worth, or this area, is unique because the Jewish community in this area grows faster than in many other parts of United States. Many Jewish people are moving to Texas these recent years. I spent a number of, 4 years in Dallas back in 2002 through 2006. And I couldn't even consider any Jewish evangelism for Dallas or any ministry here or anything. There were just probably 40, 50,000 Jewish people primarily living in North Dallas area. But something happened since then. Many big companies moved and still moving their headquarters and big offices to Texas. Jewish people are moving with these corporations and with these companies from East Coast and from the West Coast. even from California, from Washington State, from New York City, from all these different places, Jewish people are moving to Texas, particularly to Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, and even more particularly to the area, to the areas like Frisco, Plano, and areas like South Lake and Grapevine, so to the areas between Dallas and Fort Worth. And these Jewish people who are moving to this area, they are mostly, as Michael mentioned, secular, assimilated, but still with the Jewish identity. It's one special thing about Dallas, Fort Worth. Sorry, I'm telling Dallas. I know Fort Worth is a different country. I don't know where you came from. But when I say, well, I need to avoid saying Dallas, the Metroplex, okay? So another special thing is, it's like not just spiritual belt, it's spiritual buckle. It's, for me, it's like U.S. Jerusalem. Everything Christian is here. I mean, the large churches, the big names of Christianity, the church, like 4 churches on an intersection, it's here. It's still like heavy traffic on Sunday morning. I enjoy that. But it also tells us the reality here in the Metroplex. Jewish people who move to this area, they live next door to Christians. And they work on the same floor or in the same office with Christians. And they do shopping in the same shops with Christians. Their children are doing sport the same place with Christian kids. It makes Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex unique. Christians and Jews close together. There is no Jewish neighborhood, so clear Jewish. There is Orthodox Jewish neighborhood in North Dallas, but otherwise there is no clear Jewish borough, and there is no clear Christian borough in the Metroplex. So there is a challenge, and there is an opportunity to live what Michael was telling, a good testimony, to live a life for the Jewish people around you to become jealous, to see something special, to see God in you and in your life. And I just sign under what Michael said. It's not just words; it's our life. And in the Metroplex, it's not just the words. We don't need to do even street evangelism. It would be strange because it would be like suicidal attempt, you know. Just try to cross a street somewhere here, you will be killed. I'm always so scared to see people on the bicycles riding. It's like hunting season starting. But leaving the next door, going to the same school, working in the same office on the next desk, going to the same like clubs or the same golf courts, you have your chance, particularly here. And talking about the Jewish people, in English it's so easy to explain actually. Jewish people, the second word, people. Jewish, we are also people. And that means that we have the same needs, the same worries, the same anxieties. We can get sick as everybody else. I mean, our life is full similar troubles, anxieties and worries as everybody else. So actually, everything what you got in Jesus, Jewish people as people, we need as well. But there is a difference in the first word, Jewish. And that means primarily that we have our identity and we identify ourselves historically and in our memory with the Jewish people. And this identification is very important for us. If you look at survey reports about Jewish community or Jewish population in the United States, 2/3, if not more, say, my Jewish identity is important for me. More or less. For every third, it's very important. At the same time, only 14% Jewish people in the United States or less regard like loss or dietary loss as important. Only 5% would say keeping Shabbat is something what makes me Jewish. The majority of the Jewish people would link their identity to the history. And 73% would say remembering the Holocaust. That's what means to be Jewish for me. At the same time, Jewish people are pretty open to consider that, okay, if you're Jewish and you believe in Jesus, it's fine for you, but not for me. So like 34% or more at this time of the Jewish people would say this. But now, there is one assumption that is very much attached to our identity. Jewish people don't believe in Jesus. Why? Because Jewish people don't believe in Jesus, period. It's a very strong biased assumption that we have. Jesus became absolutely not attractive for the Jewish people during the centuries and thousands of years. Well, some of our teachers of the past contributed to this problem to arise. But the Christian history is full of the bloody pages that also made this assumption the reality even till this day. What I think is crucial for us when we talk to our Jewish neighbors, to our Jewish friends, colleagues, schoolmates, etc. It's important to bridge this gap between Jewish people and their Messiah. Because if you show what Jesus means and has done for you, and you're excited about it, and you appreciate the Messiah, and they can see the Messiah and the love of God and the working of God in your life, the next thing you got to deal with is to bridge the gap of this postmodern thinking. Okay, you are Christian, it's good for you, but it's not for me. First of all, to the Jew first. When I ask how to talk to a Jewish person about Jesus, I usually give this quick example. I mean, if you're a Gentile, if you're non-Jewish Christian, you tell to the Jewish or something, you communicate something like this to a Jewish person you know or you meet. You know, your Messiah blessed me. Your Messiah forgave all my sin. Your Messiah helps me daily. Your Messiah gave me quality new life that will never cease. I'm not even afraid of death because your Messiah gave me the eternal life. Your Messiah is actually the best what has happened to me. Do you know your Messiah? You see the point? I'm not expecting you to repeat the words. It's not like a magic formula that works. Not at all. But the point is, if you live with Jesus, if Jesus is important for you, if he changed your life and you appreciate him for that, then make it attractive also to the Jewish people. You can expect them to tell, well, it's good for you, but not for me. Try to bridge this gap. Try to share Jesus as the Messiah of the Jewish people. You know, there are many different ways how you could communicate it. New Testament, it's not for me, it's anti-Semitic book. Well, have you read the New Testament? No, why should I? Well, you should read it because it's the bestseller of Jewish literature. It's the most printed, published, given, and sold Jewish book in entire history ever. You know, I love Jewish people. Why? Sometimes the answer is, oh, they're so smart, they're so successful. Please don't give this answer because we are getting immediately suspicious and nervous. But because when we are like exalted like this, the pogroms are coming. That's the assumptions. So, but you can tell the reason you love Jewish people, and I hope you do. Look, I love Jewish people because my Savior is Jewish. Because my King is Jewish. Because the one who saved me, he's Jewish. I read the Jewish book. I follow the Jewish apostles. It's just like, you are the people of the King. I love you because Jesus loves you. Many different. So try to use every occasion to show to the Jewish people you know that you appreciate him as a Jew. And it's actually for the Jewish people. You are joining Jewish people in their salvation and their redemption. You are grafted in, and you're not as a second class. On this tree, we are all equal. But just keep it in mind. This tree, by nature, is Jewish. And try to communicate it to the Jewish people. You need to understand that, not just to have the proper and right theology, but also to communicate this fact to the Jewish people. You know, please keep in mind also, talking to your Jewish friends, we all, not all, but to the majority, we have the victim mentality. So we are very suspicious. Some were biasedly, deep inside, we think that the entire world hates us. And from the history, we learned that to the big part, it's true. So talking to your Jewish friends, try to be patient, as Michael said. Try to show that you care for them. That you're not just trying to convert them to Christianity for you to get like a special reward in heaven or a good word from your pastor. But because you care for them. We are very sensitive to expression of love, especially when it's sincere. Well, when I'm talking like this about Jewish people, I feel, as a Jew, I feel always a little bit guilty, you know? Like a Jewish guilt is always there. Like, I'm talking so good about, or just like I'm talking so much about Jewish people, etc. What about other nations? Well, what is the name of the seminar here, or workshop? Jewish Evangelism. I feel better. You came to listen about this, so welcome. By the way, in Dallas, I'm doing with some other guys. We are doing seminars, how to share the gospel with the Jewish friends. It's 3 evening seminars, so total like 4 hours, and no, it's 6 hours total. 6 hours, 3 evenings, 2 hours each. And it includes some Jewish objections, reasons to evangelism, like approaches and Jewish traditions, or the Messiah in Jewish traditions and festivals. And we also started the initiative or network called Our Jewish Friends. We try to share the gospel with our Jewish friends together, Christian and Messianic Jews. We organize the social events for you to invite your Jewish friends, for us to fellowship, to build relationship. Not offensive. It's not like crusade or preaching service. It's just an event for us to get know each other and for the Jewish people to see that we are not the enemies actually, but we appreciate them the way they are. If you are interested to participate in these seminars or even organize this seminar, such seminar in your church or in a group of people you know, please give us your email address. Next seminars will be in January, and we will inform you about that. And there in the back, Mark, would you wave with the hand? So when you will go out of the door, Mark and Ryan will be there with a contact list. So we're not going. It's not like fundraising. It's not, you are not going, we're not registered like this Our Jewish Friends initiative. We're not raising any funds. We're not, it's just like informal, absolutely informal network. You're not going to receive any prayer letters or newsletters. It's enough that Chosen People Ministries is going to send you very nice newsletters. But you are going to be updated about the events and seminars that we are doing here in Dallas. Thank you. Now we have time for questions and answers. Michael, come here for us to be together. We don't have chairs here, but we can stand. So, any questions to both of us?
I just heard in an interview with Netanyahu that they asked him how he relieved the stress of his office, and he said it was by studying the Bible with his son. Apparently his son has won a national contest. What does Jewish Bible study look like? Do they study the same books we do? Do they look at the New Testament?
Okay, thank you for the question. Of course not. If they look for New Testament, why do we have the seminar in Jewish evangelism? That would be no, of course not. They consider the Bible as the book of just what we call the 39 books of the Old Testament. Of course, Jewish people do not call it Old Testament; they call it the Bible, starting from Genesis and ending Second Chronicles. The order of the books is different, so just they're the same books, but just orders are different. New Testament, considered not even deuterocanonical, not apocryphal, just considered just baloney, nothing more than that, unfortunately. Now, when I say about Netanyahu and his son, that well known in Israel for his just few wins in this contest, a national contest, yes, Netanyahu is very welcomed in IPAC here and American conservative Republican lobby here. So he's well known among local evangelicals. And even in Jerusalem, when they got the annual organized by Christian Embassy, the Feast of Tabernacles, usually Netanyahu comes and gives his greetings. So it's well known. For political reasons, I believe. Because he knows that he knows for sure that they are his friends. His son, the one religious, and Netanyahu is a really big expert in the Bible. He quotes periodically verses from New Testament. He does it. But it doesn't have to lead you into direction that knowledge about God, it's not the knowledge of God. That's two different things. So he might well know, the New Testament, as many professors in Hebrew University know very, very good. But it doesn't mean that they believe in that. So Bible study is usually different. It's in a setting of the synagogues. Okay, it's going on, but that's whole different issue. Yes, please.
Wait.
Sure.
I want to complement something to what Michael said. In the recent decades, among liberal Jewish scholars and Jewish academics, there is a growing, and philosophers, there is a growing sympathy about regarding Jesus. So Jesus is getting recognized as a Jew, as a good Jew, even as a prophet, even as a Messiah. The New Testament, Jewish scholars, not the Orthodox rabbis, but Jewish scholars, they are not just reading the New Testament today, they even write New Testament commentaries. So a couple years ago, there came up the New Testament commentaries written by Jewish, non-Messianic Jewish scholars. So Michael said regarding Orthodox rabbis, with secular academics, it's getting slowly a little bit different. By the way, regarding what books Jewish people read, I want to advertise the seminars that we're teaching here in this area again. There was a question.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering, in regards to, would it be beneficial to engage with Jewish people through a basis of using their own scriptures to demonstrate that Jesus is the Messiah? Kind of like what Paul has done in the early first century. He used scriptures to prove that Jesus was the Messiah. And as far as I don't know if this is true, but the rabbis don't go through Isaiah 53, correct? Like they hold to the Old Testament, but they skip over certain sections. What are the sections they skip over? Like I know Isaiah 53 is one of them. What are the others?
It's I just on last was it Tuesday I taught a class period here at Southwestern about comparison Christian and Jewish hermeneutics, and it all depends what Jewish people you are talking about. Orthodox Jews or conservative or liberal, reform. So it's or absolutely secular. They read it differently. For example, for Orthodox Jews, they read the Bible, but what the authoritative for understanding the Bible is the rabbinic perspective on that. But for secular Jews today, they discover the beauty of the Bible. I mean, Hebrew Bible. For themselves, it all depends. But the Messianic prophecies, it's my personal opinion. Although I love Messianic prophecies, I'm a little bit skeptical that you can convince anybody with using the Messianic prophecies. It's first of all, I would say we need it for us to be stronger in our faith than to prove it to somebody, because they are either opinionated already about this or they don't care. So first, you need to build bridges. And if their interest is there, you can proceed with the Messianic prophecies. But again, it's my opinion. I'm giving the microphone to Mike.
Yeah. First of all, I have to disappoint you. It's the myth. The Jews read all the Bible. And all the stories about the forsaken chapter is just blah, blah, blah. There are few books in the Bible that are not recommended to be taught without rabbis. That's true. But Isaiah 52:30 and 53:12 is just one of the many. For example, certain parts of the book of Ezekiel or book of Daniel, and I can give you just many like that, that is not recommended for study without tutor. Okay, that's the first thing. Okay. Secondly, the status of the prophecies in general. By the way, Christians count for around 100 messianic prophecies in the Bible, while Jews say around 400. Doesn't make them necessarily followers of Jesus because of the status of the prophetical literature or scriptures, a part of Torah. Torah is most authoritative, All other stuff is sort of, it's very interesting how Jews consider the Bible. Yes, comes from God, but to put it on an equal foot with the Torah, they would never agree. When it comes about oral tradition as a hermeneutical tool for interpreting Bible, take for consideration, it's not just Jewish approach. You go to John MacArthur Church, he's got his oral tradition of interpreting Bible, and it becomes authoritative for the certain denomination. Go to the Southern Baptist, the same story. Go to the Charismatic, it's the same story. That is why we got today, already 600 kind of Baptists in the world. And everyone, of course, is the Baptist. You have to understand that, okay? And yes, that's what it is, okay? And then finally, your question, is it better just to start from Jewish scriptures? By the way, that was the Bible in the time of Paul. Yes, preferable. You might even testify to non-believing Jews, but it doesn't really matter. You see somebody speaking English, okay, you might not like him, but you say that's one of us, okay, because he speaks English. The same way, even secular Jew, not believing in any God, but if you share with him from Hebrew Bible, he knows that's our Bible, okay? He doesn't necessarily believe in that, but still it helps bit, not okay.
By the way, it reminds me, thank you for bringing that up. If you will leave your email with us today, we will email you a brochure with the passages from the Old Testament that you can use. It's just like the gospel presentation from the Old Testament. It's not necessary that it's like the best way to approach a Jewish person immediately, but at least you will see how you can relevantly operate with Tanakh, with the Old Testament, by presenting the gospel. Pikman.
You.
Your Jewish friends believe in sin? Because I live in a retirement community, and I asked that we had some rabbis in there. It's a Jewish retirement community. We have rabbis in there doing different things. And I asked one day, well, what about sin? Referring to the fact that the temple is no longer there. And he said, Jews don't believe in sin.
Well, of course, Jews believe in sin. Sin is a violation of the law. Sin in Hebrew language is something just missing the target. That's the exact translation. You got the target, you miss the point. Point is Torah, perfect God. Of course, by default, everyone is missing. So everyone is sinner, no question. The origins of sin, they do not believe in original sin. That's a whole different story. But they believe in the evil inclination of man, and every man sins. That's given, no question. So no, with this regard, it's not big deal. What was your second part?
So they're not being taught.
Now the temple. Okay. No. But you have to understand when you speak about temple, okay? Do you believe that there was salvation in the time of Daniel? That's my question to you. Was it? Was temple there? No. Temple was just that's another myth. Of course, you read Hebrews, you know that the sacrifice is absolutely must, but on condition you have repentance. With no repentance, Torah teaches you no sin of no sacrifice has nothing. It's hopeless. It's helpless. You have to have it. Nevertheless, Bible provides the way of salvation without temple and without temple sacrifice. We know it from the Bible. We know it from the Bible. In the time of Daniel, in the time of Ezekiel, was no temple, but it will be presumptuous on our part to say no temple, no salvation. Because salvation is Abraham. Abraham didn't have temple, right? But God just, because of his faith, he was considered to be righteous. So it's not black and white. So there is this certain ground for argumentation with the rabbis, but the only condition, we have to know more about what they really believe and what is the Christian myth about faith of Jews.
And as a complement to this, the Reformed Jews, they are not always believers in a sin. So your neighbors or the Jewish people here in this area, be ready to encounter that they don't believe in a sin in the way the Bible teaches about sin. But regardless whether they believe in a sin or not, they sin. And they need Yeshua. They need the Messiah. We probably need to...
One more question.
Yeah, okay, good.
What do you choose?
I have two questions. Would it be, from what you've been saying, well, I'm one of those who came out of, this ancient, that's curious, that's what I think. Would it be correct to assume that then the Jewish people, right, believe in Jesus Christ the way Christians believe in Jesus Christ, except you call him Yeshua or Messiah, and we call him Jesus Christ? And the second question is, does the Jewish community of believers have any intentions of incorporating the New Testament into their gospel?
You are talking about Jewish believers like Michael and myself, or?
I want to assume you are the ones I'm talking about because I'm very curious.
Okay. Well, we need to interact more because you seem to be very curious and very new to all this specific, and that's good. Yes, the Jewish believers in Yeshua, we do read the New Testament. We do believe in what is written in the New Testament, and we call him Yeshua, Mashiach, or Jesus, or depending what country and what culture we live in. But we do read in the New Testament and believe what is written there.
It's an excellent question. Excuse me, what's your name? Rosemary. I'm just assuming, I meet my friend. He said, listen, I met Rosemary yesterday. He said, wow, it's amazing. I haven't seen her for 10 years. Or is she in a town? I say, what do you mean? She's in town for the last 8 years. I say, no. You're talking about whom? And just, she's got a family and 5 children. No, I'm saying that she's got 3 children and she's divorced. No. And we find that we talk about 2 different Rosemaries. So when you talk about Jesus, regardless how you name it, who is him? It's very important. Christians, Jews, they call Messiah, you call Christ, Mashiach, whoever. What do you mean when you say Mashiach or Christ? You have to give me his characteristic, his description, his character, for me to identify him as your Messiah and my Messiah as well. In other words, if it doesn't happen, we can speak to the morning about different people and calling them the same name. Doesn't help. And I believe that for consensus, it's very, very important, not to the Jews only, but also to the Christians. And it's very important when you communicate Messiah to Jewish people, be careful that this Messiah should be scriptural Messiah, not Messiah of your imagination. Okay?
Thank you for choosing this seminar. It means a lot for us. Let's keep in touch. Thank you and have a good day.